Hi beautiful, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to do a get ready with me using the products that I already own and I shop from my stash. Now that summer is unfortunately over here in New Zealand, I could start doing makeup looks that are quite sultry, quite bold than the usual that I've been doing. So I recently discovered this Sinopia eyeshadow palette from Mellow Cosmetics, and this is what the eyeshadow looks like. And is it just me, or this eyeshadow palette screams autumn or fall, wherever you call it in different parts of the world? I personally am not a fan of extremely matte base anymore. I used to be like all about that matte, but now that as I grow older, I kind of appreciate a little bit more hydration and also the fact that I'm currently still sick. So to prime, I am going to use the Berry M Unicorn Primer Drops, and this is a hydrating primer that will give me an extra boost of hydration, also make my makeup glide on smoothly. Before I move on to the face, I'm just gonna let the primer sink in and we'll start doing the eyes first. I do apologize if you hear a lot of like banging and stuff because it's a Sunday today. It's a good day. A lot of people are out doing their lawns, doing some work for their homes. Because of the virus going around, most of them are forced to stay at home. So yeah, to prime my eyes, I am going to use my concealer, and this is the Revolution Super Size Conceal and Define Concealer, and I have the shade 8.5. I used to have the smaller version of this, and I finished it all up. I absolutely love this shade on me because it helps me brighten any foundation that I own that are quite dark. I'm not a fan of the formula because if you don't prime your face properly, it can get a little bit drying. And also it doesn't really give a lot of coverage, even though it says it's full coverage. I am going to set my eyes using the white shade from the palette called Pecan. I want it to be a little bit bright because we're going to move into more of like a warm orangey color. And I know a lot of people prefer not setting their lids when they apply any primer or concealer because apparently the pigment just lasts longer and also the pigment shows up a lot better. Not me, because I do have oily lids. At one time I tried to not set my lids when I applied the concealer, and oh my god, everything creased. So it doesn't matter if I use a primer or not, I have to set my lids. So I'm going to zoom you guys in a little bit. So I'm going to start out with this shade called Brick. I want this eyeshadow look to be a little bit more on the matte side, and I'm going to use probably only 3 shades from this eyeshadow palette because I want to stick to that warm brown kind of look. And I love this eyeshadow brush so much, especially in applying my transition shade. This is from Sedona Lace, and this is the 863 brush, and as you can see, it took me 4 swipes, if not maybe 5, to fully blend the shade, but it covered the entirety of my eye. Also, I'm a bit nasally at the moment, so forgive me. See how easy that was? I'm going to apply another layer to really coat my whole lids. This is going to be like a blown out smoky eye. So next, I am going to pick up this brush right here. This is from Morphe, and this is the M433. It's like a dupe for the MAC 217 brush. I'm going to pick up this shade called Merlot, and I'm going to put that on the outer V and do a circular motion. And whatever's left, I'm going to drag that towards the inner part of my eye. I don't want it to look super complicated and super intense. I just want the colors to show. And I'm pulling that again towards the inner part. I'm not adding more products or whatever is left on the brush. That's what I use, and I find that it helps when you blend it with circular motion. And I'm going to deepen it up a little bit, concentrating more on the on the outer corner of the eye and slowly bringing it in. I like to leave this inner part right here a little bit bare and bright because that's going to serve as our highlight without putting anything in there. I just want it to be like three-dimensional without having to try too hard, you know? This is the type of look where if you just came from work and you want to do a quick get ready to go out of town, this is the type of look that you're going to get. So to deepen up the the outer corner, I'm going to pick up this cool tone brown shade with the same brush, pat that on this part of my lid, and just concentrate that on the outer V, kind of winging it out a little bit. Don't worry if it's a little bit messy because we are going to clean that up. And again, whatever is left on the brush, I am going to drag that to the inner part of the eye. That way we have a good gradient. And now that the intensity have been built up, I feel like I'm going to stop here. I might add a little bit of dust, which is that cool tone brown, just a teeny tiny bit. And then I'm going to go back to brick, which is that transition shade that we use to blend everything. And I'm going to focus that on the outer part of my crease because I want that transition shade to show. I don't like to line the upper part of my lid to tight line because I like it to be a little bit more subtle, but at the same time it's a little bit dramatic and sultry as well. Now that the primer has sinked in, I am going to go and use my foundation, and this is from MAC, and this is the Pro Longwear foundation. Oh my gosh, I don't remember when was the last time I used this foundation. It has been so long. It's the most repurchased foundation that I owned, and I absolutely love this. I love this more than the Studio Fix Fluid. It gives somewhat the same amount of coverage, but the finish is more on the natural side. It's not too heavy, it's not too full coverage. It still gives me a decent amount of coverage, but my skin is showing, you know what I mean? Like it's a perfect in between. And I find that this foundation lasts relatively long on my skin tone. I have oily skin, but because I'm currently sick, I do have dehydrated skin. So my textures are kind of showing. Mind you, I already used a moisturizing pack. I love this foundation because the undertone is perfect for my skin, even though it's a little bit dark. Like once it oxidizes, it kind of just melts into my skin. The shade that I'm using is NC42. I'm going to go back to the concealer that I used. Conceal the eyes. I don't want to put a lot of concealer because this concealer can tend to look a little bit cakey. I'm going to add a little bit more coverage because I feel like my dark circles are very prominent, and also because I have a warm toned eyeshadow, it kind of enhances that darkness underneath the eye. So I'm going to use the other side of my beauty sponge, which has a little bit of foundation, just to tone down the brightness a little bit because it's quite out there. And to set my under eye, I am going to use the RCMA No Color Powder. I personally don't like the powder very much, but because I bought it, I have to use it. I'm just trying to use it all up as much as I could so I could justify my purchase. I do love the finish that it gives when I set my face. I don't like how it looks under my eye because I feel like instead of just setting my under eye, it kind of enhances the darkness that I have. Before I move on to the rest of the face, I am going to finish the under eye. So I'm just gonna pick up this brush that we used before, dust off a little bit of that product, and pick up Brick, which is that transition shade we use, and kind of sweep that underneath. And then I'm going to go and use Merlot, which is that one right there, for added warmth. For the inner corner highlight, I want a little bit of sparkle, so I'm going to use this shade right here called Champagne. Just on the negative space right there. I'm going to use the Maybelline City Bronzer in the shade Deep Cool. Oh, my packaging broke. That's the only problem with drugstore packaging. Like, the product is good, but their packaging don't last for a very long time. They break easy. I have the same problem with the Wet n Wild highlighter, the Precious Petal, because the packaging just broke out of nowhere. But the product is, woo. The product is delicious. So I'm going to kind of brush that pretty much all over the cheek. Even though it's quite cold, we still want a little bit of warmth on our skin without having that tan, you know. I've stopped contouring because I don't love the way it looks on my skin, so I kind of just use the bronzer to act as a contour. For blush, I'm going to use the ColourPop Super Shock Cheek blush, and this is the collaboration with Bretman Rock, and this is called Oh She's Blushing. As you can see, it's a nice pretty pink shade. Since our eyes is warm, we want to balance that out with our face as well. I'm only gonna apply probably that much, so I tap the brush twice, apply that on both cheeks just to give a little bit of flush. I'm debating whether I want to put highlight or not because I actually quite like the fact that it's a little bit matte, but we'll just add a teeny tiny bit of highlighter. I am going to use this Hourglass Ambient Lighting palette. I am going to just mix all three because why not? And I'm going to pop that on top of my cheek like so, just to add a little bit of something there. And then I am going to pick up this shade with a brush with a mixture of that highlight just to put it under here to add a little bit of luminosity. And that's pretty much it for the face. So I'm going to set I'm going to set my face with this Glow Recipe Ultra Fine Mist. I love the smell of this. And it also gives me the best glow possible. I do have oily skin. A lot of people stay away from the glow, but for me, I kind of love it. Like, as soon as it sinks into my skin, it doesn't matter what kind of foundation I use, it kind of just gives it that glow. It prevents it from looking super cakey and super dry. Onto the lips, I want to embody this whole brown monochromatic eye thing. Going to apply my lip liner in Oak. So this is a MAC lip liner and this one is in the shade Oak, and this is what it looks like. And then for lipstick, I am going to use the MAC lipstick in Whirl, which is that one right there. I feel like it's a perfect combination just to achieve this kind of like monochromatic look. Oh my gosh, I'm so obsessed with this lips because it's quite bold. At the same time, it's not too intense where it's kind of intimidating. Here is my final makeup look. I hope you guys enjoyed this makeup look. This is basically fall inspired. Like, if I want to wear a more sultry kind of makeup look, this is it. This is actually kind of my first time wearing all matte shadows on the lid except for the inner corner highlight, and I'm obsessed. Like, I can't believe I've forgotten how much I love this eyeshadow palette. As you can see, the packaging is a little bit beat up, like I left it under the sun one time, but it's such an amazing palette. Also, I am going to go back into using this foundation. I know I've been trying to transition into using more cruelty-free vegan products, but I do still have a lot of makeup products that I have used prior to me deciding to venture into clean beauty. So I'm just trying to use it all up, and once I've finished using it all up, I'm not going to repurchase. But oh my gosh, I truly cannot believe how much I love and miss this foundation, because the finish is amazing. It's still the same as how I remembered it. It's not too heavy on my skin. It gives me a nice coverage, as well as it doesn't look super cakey. It's just everything, and the fact that it's long wearing is another plus for me. The shade is a little bit off now that I look at it, because this is in NC 42. I could probably get away with using NC 40, but to be honest, I actually prefer this shade because when there's flash photography, it doesn't wash me out. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more updates, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye!